everyone. Welcome to Talk of the Town. Yes, it's me, back. Since September I haven't been here, and now I'm back. And it feels wonderful, and it's wonderful to see you. I missed you. We had a little thing with Kenny. I'll tell you about it. Right after town meeting, he had a heart attack. And it was in the wee hours of the morning. The fire department and EMTs came. Actually, it was one day after town meeting. And 3:30 in the morning, they pulled in. They were at the house within, I swear, 2-3 minutes. And took him right to Jordan Hospital. Yes, I do say Jordan Hospital. Beth Israel Deaconess, where they evaluated him right away and sent him up to Boston. It's been a tough few months, but I'll tell you, I think Kenny's in better shape than I am right now. They put a stent in. He had 80% blockage. He's doing wonderful, doing better than he has in years. And it's to the credit of EMTs, a wonderful fire department, the doctors at Beth Israel Deaconess, and our wonderful primary doctor, Dr. Donald Moore, right here at Cottage Park. They took care of him, and up in Boston, there are no words to say. It was wonderful. And so everything is copacetic, and I want to thank everybody for your cards, especially the fruit. It was terrific. And your well wishes and the phone calls, and gosh, we missed you too. And I want to thank everybody, and so does Ken. And tonight I got here, and Elixir Chocolates left off some delicious chocolates. They have wonderful candy. Elixir right here in Plymouth, Elixir Confections, and their elixirconfections.com. And I'll tell you, their candy is phenomenal, and I thank you for that. Now, tonight, one of my guests could not make it, and that's Ken Tavares, and I wish him well. He's under the weather, and so got a substitute, and I think you're going to like that substitute. And he's a good friend. But I'm going to introduce you tonight to somebody new. And I've had a chance to meet with him in his office. He's very attentive. He is so willing to be here in Plymouth. He loves it here. And I am very pleased to introduce you to our new assistant town manager, Derek Brandisi.
Hi, Karen. How are you?
How are you?
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure, Derek. And I know you're new to the town.
That's right.
But why don't you give us a little bit of your background, a little personal, a little educational, and where you came from.
Okay. So I am from the city of Worcester. I was born and raised in the city. I went to public schools, K through 12. After I graduated from college, I joined the Air Force, which I'm still in today. I'm in the Air National Guard. I'm a major. I'm stationed up at Pease Air National Guard Base, which is right outside of Portsmouth.
Thank you for serving.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. And so I received my graduate degree from Clark University. I have a master's degree in public administration. And I had been working for the city of Worcester for about 15 years. At that time, I was the director of administration and health, so I was a department head for the department. I reported directly to the city manager. At the time was Michael O'Brien. And I left the city 2015, and I had a small stint in a small community in western Massachusetts, a small town called Ashfield, where I was their town administrator.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, so it was really nice. It was my opportunity to try to expand the work that I was doing in municipal government and try to get a better sense of taking the work that we did in the city department, but expanding that more broad-based throughout municipal government. And then when this opportunity presented itself, I really wanted to pursue it. And there was a few reasons for doing that, but one of the reasons, because when I got stationed up at Pease, which is, again, right outside of Portsmouth, I had never been there before. And I fell in love with these coastal communities. I really, really did.
What's not to love? Yeah.
And so when Plymouth presented itself, I had said, "Wow, this could be a really good opportunity to work in a town." When I had met town manager Rigi, she had explained all the great things that are happening in this community, and I wanted to be a part of it. And then being a coastal community, I really wanted to be a part of it. So,
did you tour the area? Did you see beautiful harbor and the rest of the area, or have you had a chance?
So you have great department heads that work for this town, and so I've had the opportunity to have a few of them take me around and show me the things that are happening. So I've had a chance to explore the community a little bit, but also more importantly, see the great projects that are happening. So David Gould had taken me out. He had shown me Long Beach, had showed me a few of the other big projects.
Dams.
Exactly, the dams that are working. Had given me some great stories about the herring.
Yes.
So I'm learning as much as I can in a very short period of time. Lee Hartman had taken me out. He had taken me to the Sims house and taken me down to Manamet. So, I'm trying to get out there as much as I can.
You live in Manamet.
I do. I have a small cottage right on White Horse Road.
Yes, right. Well, we won't say where, but that's I almost said where, but that's okay. And so isn't Manamet adorable?
It is. Again, it's really nice. I'll be honest with you, and a lot of people laugh at me when I say this, but growing up in Worcester, I had never come to Plymouth, and a lot of children growing up come to Plymouth. They come to
Plantation.
the Plymouth Plantation. They come to the Mayflower. So there's a lot of great things to come here to see, especially as you're a child and they do these class trips. We had never done that. So the very first time I had come here was when I had interviewed for the position. Yeah,
and it's quite eye-opening. And as I said to you in your office, you came at a time of year where there's no leaves on the trees, and it's not warm and beautiful, and the smell of the ions in the air, the ocean. You wait, Derek. You just wait for that to burst, because you're going to love it. And taking your family down to the beach and being able to enjoy with the locals and eat a hot dog, walking, down on the waterfront, and you're really going to enjoy Plymouth. It has kept its quality of life, and that's the way we like it.
Yeah, Plymouth is interesting. One, geographically, it's a massive community. But when I talk to the residents who have been here for many decades, I really am shocked as to the growth that this community has had. And they harken back to the days of the 70s when there was 10, 12,000 people here.
That's when I moved here.
And then we're up to 60,000 people.
Yeah.
And that's an accelerated growth in my mind, a very short period of time.
It's a shock. That's why we take things very slowly. That's why town meeting works. There are a lot of eyes on a subject, and if one person is forging ahead, another one will say, "Wait, whoa, let's think about this." A lot of debate, a lot of talk. Town meeting goes all year. We don't stop. Now, you worked under a town council. Are you familiar with town meeting? form of government?
So I worked 15 years in a city manager council form of government.
Yeah.
So although we had a mayor, our mayor is more of a figurehead, ceremonial mayor.
Yeah.
Our city manager is the chief executive officer. So I'm accustomed to working directly with a manager, not a mayor. However, the form of government, town government versus town meeting versus city council, is very different. So my exposure to that started in Worcester, because one thing that I had done a lot of was really especially after the 2009 9C cuts, where municipalities are devastated with these cuts, these local aid cuts, and so we were asked to try to really think how we could regionalize municipal services. So Worcester, again, is a large city, second largest city in New England, but what I had done is I had worked out 6 agreements with 6 neighboring towns, and every one of those neighboring towns had town meeting. So that was my first opportunity where I really started to understand town meeting, understand the difference between a bylaw and an ordinance.
Good for you.
And so again, that's where it was my first exposure, and then my second exposure was when I became town administrator for the town of Ashfield.
Oh, of course, they have town meeting.
That's right. And again, it was a short period of time, so I have limited exposure to that form of government. But again, great staff that already work down at Town Hall, and they're doing a lot to support me.
The staff is immeasurable worth what they do. And they're there for you, for all department heads too. Our finance chair of our finance committee has a wonderful staff member, and it helps so much, and it helps us as town meeting members to know that all the research went in, and they're up to par, they're up to speed on everything. Now, I understand that you have an affiliation with Blue Cross Blue Shield.
So again, during my tenure, my 15 years of municipal service, I've had the opportunity to be nominated and then selected to attend various leadership programs. And one was a really great leadership program. It's the Blue Cross Blue Shield Foundation puts on this year-long fellowship, and it's really trying to groom the next generation of leaders. Mostly in the healthcare industry. I think I was one of maybe 2 that worked in municipal service during my cohort, but it's been happening over the last 5 or 6 years, and so they continue to build this capacity of leaders, and they teach you skill sets of collaborative leadership, facilitative leadership, all these different things that you can use, especially in this world we live in, where engaging folks, having conversations with folks is vitally important. And one thing that I learned during my career is that we can't do it alone. Municipal government cannot do this all by themselves. And a lot of people think, oh, the government's here to help. Yeah, they're here to help. They're not here to do it. And so how do you build relationships, whether it's at universities, whether it's with businesses, all these different partnerships, and we all can kind of roll in the same direction is extremely important. Those are some of the things that we learn through these leadership programs.
Oh, I'm glad they chose you. That's a wonderful resource for you. Now, what are you now? You're working on the warrant. The budget's coming in. I heard some of it last night.
That's right.
This is a huge town. People want their services, Derek.
That's right.
And I shudder to think what would have happened that night that Kenny needed those services. And they were right there, Johnny on the spot.
That's great.
What would you do if you didn't have the transfer stations? What would you do, God forbid, if we didn't have our police department?
Right.
The workers at Town Hall, our library, what would you do? This is our town.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head when every year, this time of year, we're talking about budget and talking about the tax rate, and folks are saying, "Geez, I can't pay anymore." Well, at the end of the day, we still want some of these core municipal services. We want if there's a problem in our home, we want the police department to show up. If there's a fire in our neighborhood, we want the fire department to be there. And sometimes when you don't see that because you're not close to it, you don't realize how important those services are. And even like today, I had an opportunity to do some interviews for a vacancy at Town Hall, and listening to the current municipal employees talk about the divisions they're already working in and how busy they are,
Oh,
and
very.
how there's constantly someone at the window,
Yes.
asking questions, needing assistance. And so
Phone's always ringing.
I think what people sometimes forget, at least where I'm from, that there's that whole notion of government employees, and there's 4 individuals standing around a hole while another person's digging. That's really not true. Municipal employees work very hard. In fact, during the interview today, we had an opportunity to interview someone who came from the private sector, and this was her first public sector job. And she said in the interview, I work harder in this job than I did in my private sector job.
Yeah.
And so I think the residents of Plymouth and everyone else need to understand like how hard these people, they come in and day out. Doesn't matter what the weather is, they're always there, and they're always trying to do the best that they can. And so I think that sometimes gets overlooked during this budget process.
It is. I think what our residents worry about, the older ones, is the school budget. And it takes a lot to run the schools, but you need the schools. I mean, what do you do? If you have a remedy, let me know. And it's autonomous. The school department doesn't have a lot of leeway to do what they want. Personally, I think it should all come back to the state. I think it shouldn't be federal anymore. I think they should have more control on the local level. I've always felt that way. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know enough about it. I'll be the first one to admit it. But I think our school committee does the best job possible that they can. Another thing worrisome is energy. What are your thoughts?
Well, before we do energy, if I could comment on the schools,
sure.
if you don't mind.
Okay, that's my fault.
No, because I think you bring up some really valuable points. And what I've noticed, throughout the years is that in every community, we have the same conversation. The school budget's too high. Is it too high? What's right? What's wrong? And then, the school budget's typically higher than the municipal budget. And I've seen in some communities, especially Worcester, where the school committee and the city council, they're butting heads. And
that doesn't happen here.
No, and that's a thing. And so the communities that are most successful are those ones that are collaborating.
They are.
The school committee, the school superintendent, and our town manager seem to work very well together.
Yeah.
They attend each other's meetings. They support each other.
Yeah.
And so when you have trust in one another, then okay, well, they're doing the best that they can on their end.
Yes.
We do the best that we can on our end. Then at least we may not be happy with the numbers, but at least we're all trying. And again, we're all trying to achieve the same goals. And you don't see that in every community, but you definitely see that here.
You definitely see that we have a fabulous superintendent of schools, Dr. Asst. He was born to be a teacher and to be our superintendent. We love him. I shudder to think if ever he goes. But they do work together. The select board, the third floor, and Dr. Asst. And the school committee. They do work together, and that's a blessing.
Right, yeah, and I've seen that, again, being here a very short time. Manager Regi has meetings every Monday with department heads.
Yes.
And Superintendent Asst. Is there at every one of them. So, again, you don't see that. And so when I see things like that, I'm like, wow, things can be different. Because when you're in an environment where there's always this push and this conflict and confrontation, you kind of grow up and think, well, geez, that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I don't see that here. So, I think everyone should be fortunate that they are working together collaboratively. Your question around energy?
Yeah.
Well,
listen,
that's a multi-million-dollar question, not just a million-dollar question, right?
Do you know about the Revenue Idea Task Force and what we did?
I was able to be present for one of the presentations. I believe they presented not this past Tuesday, the couple
of weeks ago.
They
Christine
presented.
Pratt, the
Right.
chair of that, and John Moody was on that, the chair of the Finance Committee, Everett Malaguti, Anita Hadley, and myself. And we came up, first of all, it was a huge committee, and then it got whittled, you know, it was
Right.
hard work. You know what it is, a lot of research.
I heard.
And so, but it was so worth it. We thought outside of the box. Now it's up to the selectmen. Melissa Origi, our town manager, will, you know, take their direction. She just can't go off willy-nilly on her own. They're going to give her direction, if any, and I don't mean that disparagingly. They may pick and choose certain ones and think that the others are not doable. But we'll see what they do. So back to Entergy. That was one of the proposals now we contacts the nuclear
The waste?
the waste. Thank you. That belongs to federal government, and they cheated us out of a great deal. We're the host town, so what do you do?
Well, again, you know, I think that it's so new, and I don't have all the answers on Entergy. I do know that Chairman Tavares is paying very close attention to this one here.
Yes, he is.
He's actively engaged with state and federal officials, and he's really out there trying to make sure that the town of Plymouth is protected.
It was always his one of his main concerns was that power plant, as was you could say the same for John Mahoney, Selectman Mahoney, and Selectman Malaguti. They've always been concerned with that, but Ken Tavares, the chair of the Selectmen, has really taken this under his wing, and working with the state delegation, and because something's got to give.
Right, and so I think we'll learn more, you know, in the future. But I do know that there's active conversations, and Plymouth is being well represented to make sure that the residents are protected, the finances here in the community are protected, and then ultimately our health and safety is protected at the end.
Health and safety. Have you met Senator DiMacedo?
I have. I've had a chance to meet Senator DiMacedo.
And Representative Moratori?
Yes. Great guys, both of them.
So you sat down and spoke, and, you know, you'll see them more and more often, you know, because they're never far away.
Right, and again, so the interesting thing about Plymouth is it's big, but it's small. It's small enough in the sense where you can still call up your local senator and ask him questions. He's going to answer the phone.
Yeah.
And you know, the same with Rep. Moratori. Where in some other communities you don't have that opportunity because it's too big and they're off, you know, representing.
They just don't do it that way under a mayoral form, especially. And I was very good friends with Tommy Menino, and Tommy taught me a lot. And as mayor, I thought he was one of the best mayors of Boston could ever want. And he always said politics is local, never forget the people.
That's interesting that you say that, because from my seat in my previous position, one thing I always recognized about Mayor Menino, so if you're familiar with the Boston Public Health Commission, Mayor Menino, he used that department to get, not in a disparaging way, to get to the people, because he knew his Public Health Commission, they were doing so much in the neighborhoods, in the community, and he worked with them, and he really advocated for good public health. And so I would always use Mayor Menino as an example. I'd go back to our mayor and city mayor saying, you see what he's doing? He's using this department to help connect and bridge that gap between his office and what's happening on the streets. And so I really appreciate the things that he did with Boston Public Health Commission.
Me too, which brings me to something that you suggested to our town manager, was to consolidate the soft side of government, which I loved what she said last night. And we'll touch upon later, she said, the health department coming in and whatever, but having the rec department and the other elderly department, and that's not what it's called.
Council on Aging?
Council on Aging, all together.
Disabilities.
Yes.
The Disability Commission, Council on Aging, Library, Veteran Services.
And you suggested that.
I can't take I can't take any credit for that. Actually, when I met the town manager, she had already had this in her mind.
Well, she gave you credit.
Well, she's a great person. But no, she definitely was thinking about this. And, you know, a couple of the selectmen had mentioned it, and I was thinking it myself, like, one thing that we need to do as administrators is that we need to recognize communities change. That's how we started this conversation. This community has changed.
The living, breathing
and
entity.
so municipal government needs to change with how the community is changing.
Right.
And I think Town Manager Origi has made a really great recommendation in trying to combine, you know, she again used that term, the soft side of government, and put them all under one roof. And I think they should, and I personally, I think there could be, you know, more to come to that as well, because there's a lot of social issues that are happening in the community that this
Beautiful.
Department could really affect. And we could talk about overdoses. We could talk about our youth. There's a lot of things that a department that's reorganized, re-energized with a new director of community resources can really go out there and do great things. And to take that one step further, the state government has also recognized, and there are a lot of grant opportunities out there. So I think with the department that's reorganized like that, and a really great leader at the department level, we can go after a lot of those grants.
That sounds great. It sounds like something you could oversee, too.
Well, I'd like to do anything I can to support, but yeah, it's something that, you know, I have certainly a keen interest in. It's something I did for 15 years in Worcester. So I have a lot of ideas, have a lot of thoughts. But at the end of the day, it's...
Right, even if they choose a director for that, you know, you could help them with your experience,
absolutely,
too.
Absolutely.
What about the projects that are coming up on the books that are going to be implemented, hopefully? You've got your downtown waterfront. You have the pier that is going to be refurbished. Cottage Park, they also agreed to that. What do you think?
Well, again, we got to thank our state delegation who really helped the town get that MassWorks grant. Multiple grants are going to be used. Those MassWorks grants are going to help tear down the T-Wharf, rebuild a nice brand new T-Wharf that's safe. Right now, from what I understand, it's been condemned for, not condemned, but it's been unusable for some time because it's unsafe. And then just think of the opportunity you're going to get out of Cottage Park and redeveloping that site. I had a chance.
It's deep water there, you know, Derek.
The ocean's deep?
Yeah, they're there. So ships can come in. You know, tourism is one of our main entities for Plymouth, brings in a lot of money, hotel meal tax. Deep Channel. Okay, I might have confused you. So the cruise ships can come in at that port.
Well, that would be interesting. I didn't know that. I think one thing that I was excited about, Lynn Barrett, our CFO, had taken me for a little tour after the MassWorks announcement and showed me behind the building there's a commuter rail stop.
Yes, there is.
And it would be great, you know, if they really think if they're going to be building new condominiums or whatever they decide to build over there, that housing.
Yes.
Wow, wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that be great location, beautiful shops, right on the commuter rail? So that's one thing that I've noticed, that the commuter rail connecting to Boston can bring a lot of opportunities to a community.
It has already. Further up in North Plymouth, they built some nice condos and homes up there. Then the T stopped coming in behind, but we got it going again. And it's important to a community.
Right.
You know, you have upscale young workers coming in. They don't want to get in the car and travel to Boston. They want to get in the train. And my goodness, it's going to be right there.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's already there. Now we just got to think about, bringing more service in. Multiple lines a day, and I think you could see some real activity out there.
Well, Derek, I want to thank you very, very much for coming. Just a little introduction to Derek Brandisi, our new assistant town manager. And you're welcome on the show anytime, Derek. You've got anything new, anything to say, but you got to give me plenty of warning because we're booked like month 2 in advance. But if I know something's coming up, I'll give you a call and say, how about June? And I just put you in there.
Great, yeah. I'd love to come anytime.
Anytime, and just meet the people. They'll guide you well. We have a lot of town meeting members. And, one of our crew members showed up, Stephen. He was down at his Cedarville Steering Committee meeting. He's also a town meeting member. And
thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Anytime, call me. You want help or anything.
I know where to find you now.
Thanks so much, Derek. And Ken's going to put on a little minute commercial where we get the next guest on. See you in a few minutes.
The Plymouth Area Chamber of Commerce is a business organization of roughly 750 members across the Lower South Shore. We exist to serve local businesses and the community at large. We do this by offering a variety of business networking opportunities, by sounding a strong voice on local and regional business issues, by offering educational seminars and special programs to our members, and by developing and supporting economic development initiatives that improve the overall quality of life in the region.
My Social Security is a new service that lets you set up an online account and gain quick access to Social Security information you need the most. Use your account to get a copy of your Social Security statement, which includes your earnings record and estimates of your future retirement, disability, and survivor benefits. If you already get Social Security, you can use My Social Security to view or print your benefit verification letter, check your benefit information, change your address,
I didn't realize, Stephen,
phone number, and much more. You'll be able to gain access to all your important Social Security information by creating a My Social Security account. Visit socialsecurity.gov.
Hello. We have to bring them out and bring them in. So, as I said earlier, Ken wasn't feeling well, Chairman Tavares. So, late this afternoon, I made a phone call, and he said yes. I happen to respect this man very, very much. I've watched him over the years. He does a phenomenal job chairing the Finance Committee. Welcome, John Moody.
Hi, Karen.
Thanks so much, John.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
John, I watch you on TV and or show up, as you know.
Yep.
And it's not easy, folks, to handle 15 different personalities. And you do an excellent job.
And they keep changing.
I know. But you're very adaptable in the way you handle town meeting. Talk to me a little bit about your committee. Everything you have to do, John, and I don't think we have time to list all that. People really don't understand what a chair does, a chair of a committee. The workload is phenomenal. Tell us.
Well, I'm actually very lucky. I have, as you know, I think you mentioned her when you were talking to Derek, Carrie Gillette.
Carrie Gillette.
Is very helpful. She's the budget analyst for the town. She works for Lynn Barrett. And she's very helpful in handling a lot of the administrative activity as far as, finding rooms for us to meet in and that kind of stuff. She's also the person who's responsible for actually executing one of what I thought was a very important initiative for the Finance Committee to take on, which was to make sure that we get as much of the information that we review as we review the budget and town meeting articles, get that information available to town meeting members and to the general public.
Yes.
And she has done a yeoman's job of really getting that information out on the town's website, so it's readily accessible for town meeting members and for anybody in town to go out and pull down the information the day of or the day after the Finance Committee has actually reviewed that information.
Yes.
So
that is a tremendous help to town meeting members, and lo and behold, the public, they do go there, John. They do go to the website, pull it down, because I get phone calls, and did you know, of course I know, but they want to talk about it. And that is phenomenal, that part happening, because we're an information society.
Yes,
we want it quick. And you listen to the precinct chairs. There was a request made. What was that request, John?
That was the request to give a little more time with the books in advance of town meeting.
That isn't easy either.
We're required by the charter to make our book, our report and recommendations of the Advisory and Finance Committee, available to town meeting members 14 days in advance of town meeting. Well, in that 14 days, or 2 weeks, the 15 separate precincts have to caucus. Okay, some of them caucus together. They have to have a presentation forum for some of the issues to be pulled out. And
sometimes we caucus more than once.
So what the commitment I made to the Committee of Precinct Chairs was to get the books out 21 days in advance. Yeoman's work. And we almost didn't do it this year because there was a late-minute change to the language of one of the articles that we had to work through. Thanks to the printer, who really sort of cleared the skids to really move that book through the print shop in record time.
Who is the printer? Give him a plug.
They're in Plymouth. I want to say it's Powderhorn, or something like that.
I think it is Powderhorn.
Up there by Benny's Plaza.
They understand what it means and what it takes. So they cleared the decks. And they did it.
If we'd have had 2 books, if we'd had a special town meeting and a regular town meeting, they probably wouldn't have been able to do it. But because we just had the single town meeting this past fall, they were able to get it done.
Well, the English language works well if you come to, and you know this, right? Look who I'm talking to. All you have to say is, we have a special town meeting and a regular town meeting. They couldn't finish it. We understand. We don't like it, but we understand. Nobody's going to die over this, but we have other mechanisms to find out what we want to find out. And as I said to Derek, good town meeting members work on town meeting all year. We pass information as we know it, and then it, manifests or it doesn't. And to get back to your Finance Committee, frankly, sometimes, John, I don't know how you do it, because you're very patient, and it's hard for a person like me because I'm not patient, and I always have to catch myself. How do you do it?
Well, the role of the chair, it's really a question of understanding what is your role as the chairman of a committee. And the role of the chair is to really make it possible for everybody to express their point of view.
But what if a person goes on and on?
Well, even when a person goes on and on, there are those moments when you can interrupt, and there have been a few times where a member has. Unruly is a really strong word.
Yeah,
okay?
I don't think unruly.
I wouldn't say that there's
Yeah.
a member that's been unruly, but was pressing the
Trying to
bounds, the
make
limitations,
the point.
And I've had to call them back and say that's not exactly what the topic is that we're trying to address.
But everybody is very respectful. I watch, I see, they are respectful. They'll say, "Oh, I'm sorry," or whatever, and they recapitulate. But
that's the magic of rules-based government. You'll notice that one of the things that I focus on is making sure that I do everything according to Hoyle.
Yes.
Or Roberts, as it may be.
Yes, Roberts.
And when people see that you're not being arbitrary, that you do the same thing for everything that comes before you, they develop that respect, and
they get it.
Yep.
Yeah, and
that's
it
what I try to
works
do.
well.
Yep.
Some boards don't do it. Most boards don't.
It requires a chairman who's really dedicated to doing it that way.
And knows it well.
Yep.
I think maybe the only other person that may know that is our town moderator. Would you say he knows Robert's rules?
Absolutely. Even though Robert's rules is not used for town meeting, we use town meeting time. Having an understanding of how the rules of parliamentary procedure actually operate is really an essential element of working with people.
I will tell you, John, even though this last town meeting darn near killed me, and it was very laborious, but very worth it, everybody was respectful. Town meeting really worked as town meeting should.
Yep.
Sometimes town meeting can be boring. This time it was not. We had to think on our feet.
Yep.
And it was a lot of excitement, you went on a roller coaster ride. And it was invigorating, and that's what I love about town meeting.
I thought one of the most interesting things that happened at town meeting this past fall was the Symes House. And this is, I guess this is sort of for a rules wonk, which would be me. It's always nice to see a large body like that actually exercise the rights they have in the parliamentary process. So what happened, for those who may not know, is initially the Symes House was voted down because it was too much money. And one of the town meeting members went around and garnered some support to actually reconsider the issue.
Actually, it was a planning board member.
I'm not sure who actually did the work.
It was Kenny, and he had a heart attack the next night, but we won't talk about that. So.
But the process of reconsidering and then allowing that project to proceed, though with a smaller price tag, I think was really. I thought it was a great moment at town meeting to see town meeting actually avail itself of that right to be able to call something back before them and adjust it.
See, that was the beauty. That is the beauty of town meeting. Whether you agree with an article or not, that was town meeting at work.
Yep. That's right.
That should happen all the time.
Yes, it should.
And Stephen, our town moderator, Trifletti, will tell all of us, you can implement the rules of engagement and you're in charge. Well, now I've started, I think chairs, and you tell me how you feel about this, should start reminding at our caucuses our town meeting members of their rights, what they can do.
Yep.
And I think it's wonderful.
And town meeting members should really, if they're not familiar with town meeting time, they should really
Get the book.
buy themselves a copy.
Yeah.
And read it not once, not twice, but maybe even
just
3 times.
have it. I know town meeting members that carry it with them.
Yep. I have mine right next to the chair where I sit
Yes,
at home.
of course.
And I pick it up and read it periodically just because there's some really interesting information in there.
There really is.
And the one of the great parts of that book is really the part that talks about the history, the evolution of people governing themselves. It goes back all the way back to the Norman era. And at that time, town meeting was really a physical activity.
Oh dear.
He with the strength actually, ran the show. Okay, and it talks about how it evolved over time to become what it is today. So it's really very interesting.
That could be bad.
Yeah.
We could have jousting and all of that.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness. Now that's funny, John. That is really funny. But our town meeting, the way we had open town meeting.
Yep, for years.
And then it changed, I believe, late 60s, 70s?
Something like that.
Yeah.
I wasn't here.
For
myself.
Representative town meeting.
Yep.
Which I think, do you know some towns still have open town meeting?
Well, there are towns that are small enough to still have an open town meeting. I mean, when you have a town with 2,500 residents, open town meeting's easy to do there.
Sure.
Absolutely.
So what do you see coming up for Springtown meeting? Is it too soon to say?
It's really too soon to say. Right now, the selectmen are working through the budget.
Yeah, I heard last night.
And I missed last night. I was actually at Plymouth North High School. Plymouth South High School and Plymouth South Middle School were having their winter choir concert.
Oh, how nice.
So I was there rather than watching the selectmen. They've committed to completing their review of the budget and having a selectmen's recommended budget by January 5th.
Yes.
That's when the Advisory and Finance Committee really gets its hands on the budget and can start working through it. The one exception to that, however, is the school budget. The school budget operates on a timeline that's about a month in advance of the regular town budget, because the school budget gets folded into the town budget, the overall town budget, so they have to finalize their budget a little bit
ahead
earlier.
of time.
So they started working through that on Monday. And
it's a small window. The fall warrant is a small window.
Yep.
And they repeat it over and over again at selectmen's meetings and wherever that, By the way, John, there is a groundbreaking this Friday at the courthouse.
Yes.
Everybody is welcome to go.
Yep.
All your officials will be there, but they want the public there as well. And that's, I forget the time, 3? 3. I think it's at 3. And it's a groundbreaking, but the ribbon cutting will be in the summer, I think, of 17.
17, yes.
Yes, so, but that's coming up this Friday. And I'm sure the press will be there. But the warrant closes early.
Yep.
They mention it, they tell it, because sometimes there are citizens' petitions. And that goes in the back of the warrant. And I always think they should go in the front, but
get them out of the way.
Get them out of the way. And electronic voting has gone a long way
at town meeting.
Town meeting, accountability. The public can now look up how we vote.
Yep.
Also, you're not voting along with your neighbor, because they precinct 1 voted no, as the roll call came out, and so you don't do that. You got to vote.
Yep. You got to pull that lever yourself.
Yeah, you got to press that button, and you got to do it, and you get 3 choices.
Yep.
And
yes, no, or abstain.
Abstain, and you sometimes, boy, do I want to push that abstain button. and but there's no reason for it, so I can't.
Yeah. Yep. Got to register yourself one way or the other,
Yeah,
right?
one way or the other. So when it's too early to figure out what's coming up, the Springtown meeting, I hope there's nothing explosive.
I think we've got most of the explosive stuff out of the way for a little while.
Yeah, I want to
the-
go back.
The budget isn't exactly explosive, but there's always tension about the budget because as you and Derek were talking about earlier, it's like people believe that they are paying enough, and in fact they are. The challenge is that every year. We all like our pay raises, whether we work in the private sector or in the public sector. And the fact is that, every single year, your municipal budget is going to increase by at least 2%. Because
it has to.
You're doing 2%
Yeah.
wage increases, just to keep pace with the pace of inflation.
But you come from a tremendous background, John. You work for Blue Cross Blue Shield,
For a while, yes.
and finances are your thing. And
To a certain degree, yeah. I was an auditor and a claims audit specialist
Right.
at Blue Cross for a number of years.
all dry stuff.
So it's only dry if you believe it's dry.
It's dry.
For me, it was very exciting stuff.
Oh, I know, because
Yeah.
you like numbers.
Yep.
And I like numbers too, but I tend to get overwhelmed. But I want to go back to town meeting, the budget. And as much as we go over the budget, there'll be people that stand up at town meeting, and I'm proud to name. When you have a person like, and I'll say it, Dale Weber get up and say, there's something wrong with this, or he doesn't phrase it like that, he's much better at it. You got to take another look at it. Why is he saying that? That's why sometimes I would love to sit on Precinct 3's caucus, because I think I could learn that much more. When you hear it at town meeting, it goes over your head.
And it's really too late for you to do any research to, validate what the man is
But
saying.
it turns out to be true. And the same goes for Tom Kelly. For a long time, I didn't think, I listened to other people, but I did my own research, and there it is.
Yep.
Lo and behold, what he's saying is right, true. So, I wish that I could sometimes sit at the knee of some of these people that have been at town meeting a long time. And that goes for every precinct. Lenny Vaz.
Yes.
I would love to pick Lenny's brain just to know, because he has a vast knowledge of everything. But when you get the budget, all those numbers, do anybody on the finance committee ever come to you and say help?
No, everybody pretty much rolls up their sleeves and we dig in. There are certain limitations on what the finance committee can do with the budget. 50% of the town's budget, at least 50% of the town's budget, is salaries and benefits and that kind of stuff. That unless you're going to recommend that, we start cutting staff, which is something you only do in the most drastic of times.
Yeah.
Okay? Unless you're going to do that.
Takes years to get back.
Yeah. And unless you're going to do that, those are sort of off limits, okay? And then there are components of the budget that you can't really do anything about. For instance, community debt. We have obligations to pay back our community debt at the pace that we've promised that we would pay it back. So that's off the table. We can't really influence that. Benefits, okay? Health insurance, okay? Retiree health care. those are the benefits that we've promised to people, and those are the benefits we need to be paying for.
And those
are off the
they
table.
They work for it.
Okay, and when you take all of those things off the budget table, what you're looking at is a very minuscule part of the budget that the Advisory and Finance Committee can really influence. And it's challenging because you almost feel like you're going to be accused of rubber stamping it if you recommend no changes to the budget.
Yeah.
So sometimes I think some of our members are tempted to make a cut just to say that we're cutting. And sometimes a cut is not the right thing to do.
Right.
For instance, in last year's budget, at the DPW budget subcommittee meeting, we were asking about the amount of money that's allocated to painting the lines on the roadways.
Oh, yes.
Because when you drive around town, you see lots of situations where the lines have gone. Okay, and those need to be repainted. So we actually appropriated an additional $20,000.
I remember that, John. Guess what?
Yeah.
We have a phone call, and is it David Gallerani?
You like Paul eventually. So I just want to thank John for the hard work that they do. I think the Finance Committee definitely worked so hard to vet all the things for town meeting. And they do a great job, and it's so many hours that they work. Please God, I would never be on the Finance Committee. It's so much work. So congratulations, do a great job.
Thanks, David.
Work really hard. I don't know what's gritty, but that's what town meeting is.
That's right.
Yep. And David is a wonderful town meeting member. Sometimes we don't agree, but basically most of the time we do. But we remain friends, and he's a wonderful guy too, David Gallerani, Cape Auto Body and Cape Auto Service.
Yeah, we agree to disagree sometimes, and most of the time we agree, and that Times House thing came out the way it should have.
Yep.
Thank you, David.
It did. Thanks, David.
So I know the show's short here, so I'll get off the phone, and thanks, John, for what you do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. And that's how we feel.
Yep.
That's how we feel about you and your committee. It's an honor. You've said it. It's an honor to serve.
It is. And we don't always get that kind of positive feedback. It's nice to hear it when it comes through. Most of the time we are talking, we wonder, some committee members wonder whether or not anybody's even paying attention to us.
Oh, we're paying attention.
Because there's usually nobody in the audience, okay?
Yeah, but we're watching.
We have the Hapgoods. The Hapgoods show up all the time.
Love the Hapgoods, yeah.
And I know that there are people who watch because I hear from them periodically.
Yeah.
But, some of the members just wonder if,
The proof is in the pudding, right,
Yep.
David? Town meeting. We're paying attention.
Yep.
So have no fear there. And if you weren't doing a good job, David
We'd hear about
Gallerani,
it.
yeah, you'd hear about it. Now, PAC TV is going to have their Christmas party next week. Christmas is the following week. I got a jam-packed month in January. Love you. Love being back. Thank you, John Moody, so much for being here.
You're welcome.
See you in No, I don't know. We'll be back.
See you soon, right?
Yeah, we'll be back.